Hi, my name is Brenda Titus. I'm a professional hypnotist in Orange County, California. For information about my program, including in-person sessions, please go to my website, ochypnotherapy.com. And thank you for joining me for today's Thoughts from the Hypnosis Office. Today I'm going to be talking about what I call the anniversary effect. So the first thing I need to do is talk a little bit about how our minds work. And we're going to talk a little bit first about the conscious mind. So the conscious mind is our active attention, our active mind. And our conscious mind actually can only store a very small amount of information. We're usually able to keep track of about 7 to 10 bits of information at a time. So that is why our subconscious mind is such an amazing resource for us. Our subconscious mind is the part of our minds that keep track of everything else. So all of our memories, all of our thoughts, our beliefs, our core value systems, our feelings, and so and it just kind of sits there. It's kind of, if you've ever seen the under the iceberg, and it's like your conscious mind is right here, and then you've got all of this down here that's your subconscious mind. It's a really important part of our mind, and thankfully that we have a subconscious mind, because we just are constantly receiving information, and so the subconscious mind is able to store it all. Now, there is a part, and I've talked about it before, called the critical factor. And the critical factor is the part that receives the information and then decides where it's going to store it and sort it. So you can kind of think about all these storage bins inside of our minds that are keeping track of all of these things. But this is the tricky part, is that if we receive a bit of information and then our subconscious mind decides to put it in bin A when really it belongs in bin C, then that's where, these two things come together and they might be stored inappropriately. And so that's kind of a little bit of a background, and because then with hypnosis, then we have to kind of unwind, make sure that things are stored in the same way. Kind of the simple example I give all the time is we say first day of school. So for some people, that could be exciting. First day of school, a fresh new start, new school supplies, how wonderful, new clothes, new lunchbox, new friends. Or you could say, first day of school, oh man, scary, intimidating. Oh no, I don't know anybody, what's going to happen, all of those things. So you see how, it depends on how the subconscious mind stores those things. So I wanted to talk about that as a little bit of a background for talking about the anniversary effect. So our subconscious mind, our critical factor, is always kind of scanning the horizon, making sense of our world. And if it sees something that looks like it could be, a concern, a danger, then it kind of will do a little bit of an alert, like, hey, something's coming I'm not so sure about. And then, a little fear will come up, like, something that maybe in the past was put in the fear bin, and then here it comes up to, we experience something that in the past was stored in the fear bin. Then we need to, we might experience it, and the fear bin comes up and is ready to experience this experience as fear, as something that's scary and intimidating, as opposed to something that could be exciting. Okay, we'll go back and remember my example was the first day of school, so there was a reason that I gave that one. It could be a very exciting thing. It could also be something that is very scary and intimidating. Depends on how the subconscious mind has decided where to put it. From all the experiences that we've had over our lifetime about the first day of school, or even other first days, first day at a job, or, so that's, kind of how that works. So I wanted to talk about that anniversary effect, though, today in particular, because it is sometimes that our minds will kind of latch on to the the bigger theme of whether it's, you see that date coming on your calendar, and it could be a good date. It could be, a date that maybe something bad happened once. And so the subconscious mind kind of evaluates. And unfortunately, sadly, I have people who will experience this all the time. If they had, difficult times at Christmas growing up, then they start having that agitation around Christmas or a birthday or some other day, a day that there was an accident, a day that there was some sort of other difficulty. And it's not even a conscious thing. It's not something that we actively say, oh no, that day is coming. Well, I'll talk about that in a minute. Generally speaking, we don't look at it and say, oh no, that day is coming, unless we've had kind of multiple years of challenges on a particular day. And again, just because, the subconscious mind is kind of noticing, oh, there's this problem, there's this challenge about that day. So I thought that was just kind of an interesting way of kind of thinking about that, having you guys know that, sometimes we might experience particular cycles, particular struggles. I had someone in my life at one point who would kind of notice their own pattern, and it had to do with illness or injury, kind of during November and December. And literally one day I was at the hospital with this person, and they said, well, I always get sick during the holidays. And I looked at them and I said, please, no, can we not have that belief? And, it was just kind of something that for whatever reason, there was that cycle for that person. And unfortunately, it played out after, over quite a few years that it seemed like a cycle. It seemed like a pattern for no real reason. But unfortunately, the fact that that was in her head made it a little bit of a complication. Also, as somebody who cared for her and loved her and was on the response team if there was a need, an emergency, to go and provide support. I was very aware of that pattern too. It actually helps when we understand and we can see those patterns so that we can do something about them and have more awareness. And even sometimes with hypnosis, even breaking that cycle, breaking the expectation of something bad happening on a particular day or during a particular time of the year. So, I've kind of talked about this in similar ways when we talked about Friday the 13th or April Fool's Day or, different things like that. We have our lucky days like St. Patrick's Day, all of those kinds of things, kind of the way that the subconscious mind has decided to filter information. So anyway, I thought that was just kind of a fun thing to share as you learn about, seasons and cycles and how your subconscious mind works, how it can store things for your benefit to help you, but also sometimes how it can get a little misdirected and misunderstand how to properly organize things in your mind, so that if you notice a pattern like that, then you can work to resolve it and overcome those challenges and cycles. And with that, I wish you a wonderful day. Brenda Titus at OC Hypnotherapy signing off. Have a great week.